Banagor Paladin. I understand that when one is in Scientology, and especially in the Sea Org, one is cut off from regular media half or maybe even most of the time. But doesn't it occur to most Scientologists before then to ask why they've never heard of Scientology in the news, apart from sordid stories here and there? Scientology claims that they're doing tremendous and important work all over the world, yet most people haven't even heard of Scientology outside of most westernized countries, if that, and then only bad stories. You never hear about how Scientology is doing really groundbreaking work in charity or in any other venue. You can't claim the same thing about the Catholic Church or Jewish charity groups or the like. You hear about those all the time doing this and that in the news. How do new Scientologists actually resolve this glaring problem? Okay, well, the easy and simple answer, and the most straightforward one, is that Scientology believes in and pushes conspiracy theories. And they believe that the media, the mass media, are all aligned against Scientology, and that the mass media are the puppets of governments, big pharma, psychiatry, and other influential business or big banker type people, and that the media just follow along because they're all owned. If you see those charts that show who owns all the Disney and Fox and all these organizations, and how it's all like all the mass media in the world is owned by like 6 companies or something, or 12 companies. Scientologists could dive right into that as a justification for why you don't see any good news about Scientology in mass media outlets. It's because the mass media is only contributing to the downfall of society and the enturbulation of society. In other words, they're stirring people up all the time with all that bad news, and they do that on purpose in order to keep society in a frantic, anxious, fearful state. That's the media's job as far as L. Ron Hubbard was concerned, and he talks about this in many, many places. So this is the reason Scientologists feel that they don't see or hear much about Scientology in the news. That's why at their events, they lap that stuff up. They hear about all these great expansion statistics, and they see local, state, or even sometimes national, federal level representatives or government officials talking positively about Scientology, because they got, what the Scientologists don't know is that those government officials were lied to in order to get them to say those things. Scientologists don't see anything that goes on there. They just hear the person speaking and they go, ooh, we're being accepted by, the Teachers Union of South Africa, or the Parent Teacher Association of America, or the state representative for Louisiana or something is speaking positively about Narconon. Oh wow, that's so amazing, the acceptance that we're getting. And they just lap that stuff up because it's the only place where they hear anything positive being said about Scientology in any kind of non-Scientology format or anything connected with something outside the church. And they just love that stuff. It gives them so much hope. So there's a lot of, you gotta really understand that when you get into Scientology and you're into that mindset, you want it to believe it. You want to think that this is the cat's meow and that people just haven't caught on yet, because the good news is being actively suppressed by the dark forces arrayed against Scientology. Okay, they really take that stuff for real. So that's pretty much the biggest explanation for why. As far as, and I'll also say, as far as my own experience goes, I was in that mindset. I lapped that stuff up. And then I did start wondering, and I did get some internet access, and I did start actually Googling some things. And I couldn't corroborate anything that was being said at the events. And it was, and I was already on the path out when I started doing that, because that was, a no-no for me to be doing that. That was not something a good Scientologist and a good Sea Org member would be doing. But I did it because I was curious, and I got sick and tired of seeing the events where all these great things were being announced, and yet the places were empty. It didn't make any sense, right? So that was what was putting 2 and 2 together for me. Normal Scientologists, they just don't want to hear it, right? I sat in front of a Scientologist after I had learned the truth of how bad it really was. And after I had gone down the rabbit hole of truth about L. Ron Hubbard and Scientology, I had a chance to talk to the parents of my then fiance, not my current one. Melissa, my current fiance, doesn't have anything to do with Scientology. But when I was back in 2013, when I was still and trying to make good on being a Scientologist, the gig was up. It was out that I had been speaking out badly against Scientology, and so I was trying to salvage this and make good on it. And I was sitting with my fiance's parents, and I started to open my mouth to say something about what I had read, and I was literally stopped, right? Stop. I don't want to hear, her father said, I don't want to hear anything bad about Scientology. And he just didn't want to hear it. And it was very forceful, right? And it left me no choice. I was not able to speak my truth at all or tell him anything. And it was so frustrating for me. I had to, it was painful to not be able to tell him the truth. But he did not want to hear it. And it was really a very educational moment for me to see how willfully the blinders were on to any alternative point of view. So, that's how strong they feel about that. And that's why they don't go look on the internet and won't go look on the internet or to fact check or look for media. And that's how they justify it. And that's about the best way I know how to explain it.